adulteries. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into a desert. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. You'll notice this is the exact same description of the exact same beast that we saw last week. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. This title was written on her forehead: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. And when I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, and yet will come." This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. Then the angel said to me, "The waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire, for God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth." And I'm going to read just a little bit from 18:2, because this gives you the rest of the picture of what this woman is all about. Maybe I should explain first. I'll do that. I'll explain to you first some of the details that we just saw. First of all, representations. The woman is a representation of the great city, or Babylon as it's called. I'll talk about that in just a moment, about what the great city really is. And we can't really fully understand that because it's very metaphorical here, but there are some very clear images, and so we're going to get to that. But let's move on. The beast represents a global empire. We saw that it's a collection of kings. Actually, it's a series of kings, and then there's one final king who's going to come, this 8th king, this final king who's going to come, and he's going to receive power from 10 other kings. He's going to give them power, they're going to give him power, they're all going to kind of exchange power with each other, and so the 11 of them all together are going to form some type of global empire. We looked at that a little bit last week when we talked about the beast. This week, it's just sort of a reminder that this is not just one individual. This is a global empire. Now, there is one individual sort of at the top, this 8th king, whoever that is. But it's totally a global empire. It's a system. Number three, their reign is short, and their destruction is guaranteed. You'll see in verses 12 through 14 and 18 verse 10, which we haven't gotten to, but also 17 and 19, it says in every one of those verses that they will reign for 1 hour. Up until this point, all the time frame that we've been given has been 3.5 years. Either 42 months, 1,260 days, or in the term times time and half a time. Those are the 3 ways Revelation has talked about periods of time. In every one of the 3 ways it's talked about periods of time, you do the math and it works out to about 3.5 years. Now we get to something where we have a specific period of time that's mentioned, and it is 1 hour. See, what God is saying is that when the time comes for him to do his work, it's going to happen like that. When the time comes for God to actually take care of all the evil in the world, there's not going to be any delay. There's not going to be any long, drawn-out process. It's just going to happen. Because in the time span of 3.5 years compared to 1 hour, this climax event, this ultimate event, is just going to be brief. Very brief. One last thing to say. They, the leaders, the kings, will destroy the great city in the process of their gluttony for power. Now, I need to explain a little bit about this. The first thing to explain is that this prophecy was fulfilled already. We're reading Revelation, we're looking about the end of the world, but this prophecy has already been fulfilled. Specifically because when the kingdom of Rome, when the Roman Empire fell, this prophecy was fulfilled part way. Because Rome was a city that sat on 7 hills, just like this tells us about. Rome was also a global economic kind of power, and Rome also got drunk on luxury and entertainment, so that most historians to this day believe that the reason the Roman Empire fell was simply because they were entertaining themselves to death. They had gotten so distracted by the gladiatorial conquests and by the luxurious lifestyle that they were living that they just weren't paying attention when the Huns and the barbarians started destroying cities. They just didn't know it until finally, next thing you know, the entire empire is gone and you're saying, well, what just happened? You see, they were living on luxurious power and lost it all in the process. This is partially fulfilled back then. However, it is not fully fulfilled just in that event. Because see, what John sees here is an abomination of the whole earth. It's a metaphorical and realized in reality city, government, nation of some kind that is a global oppressor. It actually is oppressing the entire world by gathering all of the world's resources into itself and living in luxury and living in pleasure and living in entertainment while the rest of the world around it is suffering in poverty. That's what he's describing here as this Babylon. In fact, I can show you in chapter 18 just a few of these little things. If we start at the very beginning of 18, we hear a mighty angel shouting, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a home for demons and a haunt for every evil spirit. A haunt for every unclean and detestable bird, for all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." The rest of this song is all about that. It talks about how this city